Welcome to this new edition of the Bilateral.org podcast, where we discuss the most recent developments around free trade agreements. India has again been under the spotlight. You may remember that India left the mega regional trade deal in Asia Pacific known as RCEP, and since then India renewed its interest in negotiating bilateral free trade agreements, and it's now set to sign a free trade deal with Australia. So it's what they call early harvest or like interim free trade agreement. So that's something that's a little bit smaller and less comprehensive than regular free trade agreements. The idea is to reach an agreement much sooner than you would do under a regular comprehensive free trade agreement. India is also about to start negotiating one of these interim free trade deals with Canada, and it's also recently completed the first round of trade negotiations with the UK. India also signed a trade agreement with the United Arab Emirates, and actually the whole process was very quick and an agreement was quickly reached. Also worth noting that the war in Ukraine might delay the negotiations between India and the Russian-led Eurasian Economic Union. And speaking of the United Arab Emirates, they've also been quite busy trying to diversify the economy from fossil fuels and also trying to recover from the COVID-19 crisis. So the UAE actually has been negotiating with a few countries, including Australia, Israel, Indonesia, Colombia, Chile, and Korea. The United Kingdom as well, since its exit from the European Union, has also been negotiating quite a few trade agreements in the recent month. The UK signed a digital trade agreement with Singapore, which aims to further liberalize the digital economy sector, and which is in line with another trade deal the UK signed with Australia a few months ago, which also had pretty strong and radical e-commerce provisions that were modeled on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Recently, the UK also signed a free trade deal with New Zealand, which has been slammed by Maori groups in New Zealand and also some academics that claim that the deal did nothing to redress a failed free trade model. Many see actually this UK-New Zealand free trade agreement as a down payment for the access to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And it's actually on our understanding that the UK application that is the only one being seriously considered right now, as other applicants to the Trans-Pacific Partnership are a bit dragging behind and their applications are still at the initial stage. And moving on to Canada. In January, Canada lost a trade dispute against the US under the new North American free trade agreements. The US had targeted the supply management model that Canada uses for its dairy sector, and which ensures dairy farmers in Canada decent pay, among other things. And but recently, US dairy groups slammed again Canada's proposal to redress that model in spite of this dispute that was lost by Canada. And it's worth also mentioning that this supply management system has been targeted for years by other countries such as New Zealand, the European Union, and obviously the US. Moving further south in Guatemala, water defenders celebrated 10 years of resistance in the La Puya region. They've been struggling against powerful interest of mining companies to ensure that they have clean water and that their health is preserved. And most notably, they've been resisting against a US company called KCA that operated a gold mine in the region. But the gold mining was actually suspended by Guatemalan courts as they decided that the operations of KCA were illegal. In retaliation, KCA is now suing Guatemala for $400 million under the Central American Free Trade Agreement with the US, which is actually part of a broader strategy used by many corporations to bully states into agreeing projects that are actually harmful for the environment and the population. And in Thailand, the Prime Minister has been under pressure for reopening a gold mine that's operated by an Australian company. The mine was shut amid accusations from nearby villagers who claimed that the toxic waste coming from the mine was poisoning them. And in retaliation, again, the company sued Thailand before an arbitration tribunal under the terms of the Thailand-Australia Free Trade Agreement. And that's it. That's it from us. I'm Nicholas Roux, bilaterals.org, signing off. More news coming up soon in our next podcast. And in the meantime, you can check out bilaterals.org.